Hi there, this is Chris from MoneyHub, and this video looks at the best travel money options for anyone going to Bali. So we published this guide, which is very comprehensive because a lot of people seem to be going to Bali, but they're a little bit confused or don't really understand how the Indonesian rupiah works with regards to the New Zealand dollar. Some people have changed money at the airport and found out they've, haven't got enough money compared to what they can get when they get to Bali or compared to their cards. So the best way to solve all this is to publish a comprehensive guide, which I'm going to walk you through now. We've got a separate guide looking specifically at the FX rates used in cash, which you can see linked to this video. But for all intents and purposes, this guide is your all kind of points around what you need to know before setting off. And so I'm just going to walk through it right now. So summary here, the currency for Bali, because it's part of Indonesia, is the Indonesian rupiah, and it's known as the IDR. And you may see RP as a symbol locally. Of course, it really is the only currency used within Bali. And as I said, it's an increasingly popular place to go. But there have been scams. There have been problems with the exchange rates with regards to getting the best value. So here's this guide. And there is a huge difference, which I'll point to down below, and just a little small summary of it is between the Travelex rate, which you'd get if you were to load up one of their travel money cards or just get cash within New Zealand before you leave, and then say, for example, the Wise rate, which I'll get to shortly. And then there's also the option of changing your money at money exchange places throughout Bali. One of them, for example, is the Kuta branch, the Kuta Central Kuta Money Exchange, and they offer a whole bunch of rates, usually kind of fixed, not moving around so much. They don't change them every hour, but I'll discuss that as well. And then just going further on, a lot of people will prepay for their hotels, possibly or probably with their New Zealand credit card or debit card. That's great. And also Airbnbs can be prepaid. That's usually the process. But there will be a lot of things you need cash for, which I'll go through shortly. And, there is a lot of on-the-ground costs that you can't pay for with cards. So with all that being clear, we have linked out to some useful guides around scams, and then just talking about how people have problems within Bali when it comes to changing money. So you might want to read these down below as well. And I've also linked them in the video description. Now, you'll find that Visa and MasterCard are accepted everywhere, that cards are, but it is an issue with Amex outside of main sort of hotels and resorts. So let's just get straight into it using cash. So lots of people think I should probably have some cash when I get to Bali rather than just cards. That's absolutely reasonable. The problem that's happened in the past, and what actually continues to happen, is the fact that people get very bad exchange rates for their New Zealand dollars. So let's just go straight into that and show an example. So here we are. We're on the Travelex site, and we're on the buying the currency part. So say we have $100 that we want to change, and we want to change to cash, which is why I've clicked cash there, which kind of comes preset. And you can see that one New Zealand dollar is going to equal around 8,100 rupiah, which is clear there. If you use something else like the number one currency, you can see that rate is around 8,300. But if you go to something like Wise, you'll see the rate is around 9,200. So this is where things get a bit silly, because people will exchange within New Zealand and lose about arguably up to 12% of their money just on a bad exchange rate. At the same time, they can take those New Zealand dollars, 20s, 50s, 10s, whatever, 5s, take them to Indonesia and then get, 8,900. So as soon as you get to Indonesia, just by having New Zealand dollars, you will get more than you would get, say, if you used a platform or a service like Travelex or number one currency. So that's really, really critical to be aware of straight up front, because there's too much money being made by these bureau de changes within New Zealand, and they're not offering any form of good value for money. When you get to Bali, plenty of ATMs. And so, of course, we believe that the cheapest way to get rupiah in your hand is to take a debit card or a credit card if it's topped up with money, i.e. like you're not spending to trigger interest rate. But for most people, they'll probably get a travel money card. And the reason is because the rates are usually a bit better if it's the right type of travel money card. Secondly, it's lower in fees. So for that example, we can see here that these are the ATM fees. These are the card fees. But if you were to use that in an ATM, you'd pretty much get that rate, and you would get up to $350 per month free with Wise for using your Wise card overseas for ATM withdrawals. But this isn't really a push to sell Wise. It's just more showing that you can like get to Bali and pretty quickly take out some money and not be stung by it. So we've written here that, foreign exchange rates at Forex booths are pretty poor. And if you're in Kuta, like around Bali, you can get much better rates than you'd get from New Zealand. So that's always an option if you want to take a few notes with you just to change them as you need them, which is perfectly reasonable. And then we saw that Wise is obviously giving the best value for money with regards to the foreign exchange rate plus low fees for ATMs. We've talked about pros and cons of cash. The pros really are that for Bali, it's total acceptance. When you go and buy stuff, you will need cash. It's not going to be a situation, unless you stay in the resort the whole time or your hotel, you will need cash when you go outside. And that's just because things are not as developed as they are in, say, New Zealand. At the same time, there's a lot of street vending. There's a lot of shops without card machines, small value purchases, and just almost having more security over your card just to be able to pay in cash is pretty much a good idea. Of course, the pro alongside that is that it's perfectly safe, and that you don't have to worry about machine issues or cards being skimmed or anything like that. So that's great. There are some risks of having lots of cash in and around Bali because of course you have to carry it. So just keep that secure. And then where people really get off track is when they change money at the airport. Say they fly in, they see a Forex booth, and it's offering very unfavorable rates compared to what they could have got outside at a proper exchange or just using their debit card. People then ask, okay, well, I have spare Indonesian rupiah on the last day. What am I going to do with them? We say, excellent, just gather them all up. It's a great problem to have. Start use them on a final bill or the second last bill. You can part pay in cash and part pay in card. You can convert them back to New Zealand dollars. While you don't see rates, the sell rates here are being offered by the Central Kuta. We are aware that you can order New Zealand dollars. You just have to give them some notice. That's not like an endorsement of this company. It's just that's pretty much what people do. But the rate will be different. We can certainly see here that if we want to do a click and sell, this is meaning that we want to sell our rupiah back to New Zealand dollars. We click on that, then we can see that the rate jumps up to 10,400 from the standard 8,200. So it's a big margin, which means it'll cost you a lot more rupiah to get back into New Zealand dollars. And but at the same time, we are pragmatic in the fact that we say if it's much better to have New Zealand dollars change back and lose a bit rather than just have them sit there, because it could be a long time before you get back to Bali, or you might go somewhere else. So who knows? And then finally on there, if you know someone visiting Bali, it's always a nice present to give them. But that really just depends on the value and who they are. So just be aware that you can, of course, get rid of IDR, get rid of rupiah, but you just have to be a bit savvy with it on the last day or sort of as your holiday ends. Now, using debit cards, that's very popular, and so is using credit cards. What we suggest here is that have a good read through it. Cards will charge you to use them. Banks will charge you to use the cards. So, for example, if we look at the Kiwi bank rates, and we can see here that for foreign exchange, if you're going to withdraw, it's going to be $6. If you're going to do a international transaction fee. It's going to be 2.5%. So these are the kind of things to be aware of. We can see with other banks and stuff, Westpac will also, be offering, I think they do it around 1.95% for most of their cards. So there's always those things kind of in play there. So you do need to be aware that if you take out $1,000 worth, you could be charged, $25 in bank fees if you include an ATM fee. What's also important is that there are a few scams going around within Bali. So just be careful of that. And we've linked out to a very comprehensive guide from Bali Holiday Secrets and talking about the ATMs and the tricks that can take place. So just be cautious, don't rush in, and definitely have a read over that. Now, what we would suggest is just looking at the pros and cons. And of course, using a New Zealand bank card, very convenient. You can use it as you go. It's going to be widely accepted anywhere cards are. And you can also track all your expenses, which is great, and monitor things. And at the same time, if there's fraud on your card, then with your bank, you can work through and challenge that and make sure it's reversed. The problem is with using your cards is that, there are a lot of fees that could be tacked on just because of their foreign exchange margin fee and like ATM fees and anything like that. So be aware that, that will happen. At the same time, we have no visibility on what exchange rates they're going to be using. So the card's either going to be MasterCard or it's going to be Visa. And these are the tools offered by Visa and MasterCard. But the rates are not so clear. These are it appears to be their wholesale rates, but they both have quite different exchange rates. Secondly, they're encouraging us to put in a bank fee, but it's not clear whether or not this is the internal bank fee charge so that the rates change and then they charge on top of that, or it could just be the total bank fee. So to make things simple, you can only really see what the exchange rate is from the bank when you make the transaction. And the difference is with Wise, you can see it live. So you know that if something's going to cost, say, 1 million rupiah, then you can quickly check that on the app and get a rough idea of exactly what that's going to cost. So just heading back there, there's also the issue with dynamic currency conversion. So this can throw people because you might see, you're buying something for 1 million rupiah, and then when you tap your card, it shows up, well, would you like to pay in New Zealand dollars? And you think, okay, well, I don't know how much like 1 million rupiah is. I can't do the maths, but it sounds like a good plan to pay with NZD, but with an NZD number. The problem is those are often marked up around sort of 8%, and it's a bit of a scam. So we don't suggest people do that because that's just it's not a good use of money. And then also potential card mishaps. There have been reported issues of skimming. There's lots of newspaper articles about that online. So do be aware that bank fraud is a little bit of a problem from time to time. And of course, it's just because of the nature of Indonesia. Great country, of course, but problem is a very poor society overall, and there's always opportunists compared to wealthy Australians, New Zealanders coming in, or wealthy relative to Indonesians, and seeing that as an opportunity. So be aware that there can be a problem. So make sure you have backup. And then, so just going finally here, the travel money cards. So we've done a comprehensive comparison of travel money cards, and you can read that within our guide. So you can read our comprehensive guide. We've also linked it down below. We found that Wise was second to none with all of the transactions that we tested. The fees are lower, the foreign exchange rates are better, it's far more transparent, and it works as you'd want a travel money card too, with an app and being able to prepay at great exchange rates or top up and things like that, and have the benefit of a modern sort of 2.0 version travel money card. So with that being said, that we've compared, say, the rates here. You can see that if you do use it, you're going to be charged a 0.56% fee, and that is much lower than, say, the banks will charge. Second to that, the rates are going to be transparent. So have a read through this. We're very much a fan of the Wise card. We haven't compared it to the other cards for Indonesian rupiah because we know that Wise is routinely always number one for the bucket of currencies that, also the basket of currencies that we price check. And we just can't really say there's a second best travel money card because the rates offered and the fees charged by the rest of them are so high in comparison to Wise. It's really a situation of Wise is the best and nothing else comes close. But with all that being said, it's not right for everybody. So just have a read through. And we've said about Wise a travel card and also travel cards in general, wide acceptance for the competitive rates for Wise. They're using the market exchange rates. There's a tiny fee, multiple currencies, and instant notifications, which is great. There is a withdrawal limit, of course, that's free per month. So you can always withdraw as much money as you want as long as it's in your Wise account. But you have to make sure, because if it's not like a credit card, we can go into debt. But the thing is, with ATM withdrawals, is that you get $350 per month free fees to withdraw, which is quite nice. So if you go above that, then they charge you 1.75%. That's just for cash withdrawals. That's not for paying or tapping your debit card anywhere. There is a low withdrawal limit that's really important to be aware of. It's around $320. So if you find that you need some cash, just be aware that you might need to do one or two transactions just to get the amount that you need. And at the same time, the ATM fees are charged by the Bali bank, and they'll be passed on to any bank. They won't be excluded. If someone says, if a bank says we've got free fees, it's unlikely, or free ATM withdrawal fees internationally, it's unlikely to include a fee charged by a foreign operator, because that's not really part of the network that they agree, also that they sign up with. So just be aware that you might have a $2 or $3 charge put on top. That's why it's good to make large withdrawals if you need the money, of course, rather than just small amounts. And then it's not a credit card, as I previously said. So Wise is very transparent there, and it's very popular with people traveling. Must know tips around using money in Bali. Please be aware of the Bali scams. It's not a joke. It's not something to just ignore. Please have a read of this because it's really, really important. And then just keep track of all your expenses, because whilst it may seem cheap and this was only $4 and this was $9, by the time you do activities and stuff, things can really add up in price and also cost. So just be aware that if you're going to be there for 1 or 2 weeks, things will get expensive at some point for most people. Make sure you have enough money and you're not stressed out about it halfway through the trip or anything like that. With regards to the exchange rate, it's constantly moving around. In the last few years, it's hovered around 8,500 rupiah for $1, up to around 10,000 rupiah. So as I said, that will change at any time. And can you use your debit card or credit card? The answer to that is yes. That's going to be widely accepted wherever cards are, so that's all fine. With regards to cash, of course, you can use that wherever. And then, is Bali expensive? The answer is it really depends what you want to do. It's changed a lot, certainly in the last 10 years. So it does appeal to high-end experiences, and then also it's still a budget sort of destination as well. So that's good for everybody. And then, what's the best way to get the most rupiah for NZD? Really, we suggest using platforms like Wise, not going to the airport kiosks, not looking at getting rupiah and physical notes, changing it at the airport. We just don't think that's a very good use of your New Zealand money, because ultimately you're paying NZD to have a holiday within Bali, and you want to make sure the New Zealand dollars go as far as they possibly can. And we also like the fact that you can store IDR, also rupiah, in a digital wallet, so that's useful. And we do consider that the Wise debit card is a really strong product and much better than the bank-issued credit cards and debit cards, which are subject to fees and don't really have the technology behind them with regards to foreign exchange. So in conclusion, it's not a case of we'll do cash only or only do bank card. It's good to have a combination of all three. So cash for everything on the street is highly suggested as something to consider, and just for general ease of use of traveling. And then your bank card will no doubt be used to book some accommodation, give you some protection there, which is great for Airbnb, flights, etc., etc. And then your Wise debit card can fill in all the gaps with regards to getting money out from an ATM, and also paying for like things along the way that take cards. So that's our summary of Bali travel money. And we have talked about Wise there because we are a massive fan of it. But at the same time, please do your own research as to what's best for you. We just wanted to publish a guide that really explains the money situation, looks at the local exchange rates, because of course you can also always change money, physically money, once you're in Bali for not the worst exchange rate that's being offered, from multiple providers. So shop around, make sure that you don't rush into anything, and most importantly, just have a nice trip to Bali. Please let us know if you do have any questions with regards to the below. With regards to this video. There's lots to explain, and we want to make sure our guides and everything are as comprehensive and as clearly explained as possible. So whatever you do leave down below, we'll promptly reply to it, and it is very much appreciated. Thank you very much.